One question. I wonder how many of you had the opportunity to read what I sent to the shul.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's important. It's not so much what I'm saying. The material that I will provide, it's very provocative and mind-boggling, and will make you very, very much upset and depressed.
Well, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Where's mine?
They're not muted.
Where's mine?
I don't know.
So we will wait a few more minutes, and then we will start. The way that I'm doing it, it's like we have a virtual coffee shop that we sit around and we converse. I mean, I will give some information, but mostly it's about a discussion. And
Will you be going through the issues for discussion that you sent out?
of course,
Yes. Okay.
yes, it depends where you are going. What is your emphasis where you are heading to? In the discipline of history, the older you are, the more profound you are, because life experiences. I'm not joking. Life experiences is really motivating force.
Yeah.
And usually you study history in high school or in college when you are in your early 20s, and you don't get the full benefits.
We did receive it. We just didn't look at it.
Yeah. So I see more people are showing up, and so we will wait a few more minutes.
Why don't you get my computer and you can email or something back? Put it off.
She could have called me this morning.
I think about 10 people registered for this class.
I heard 20.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
As of Friday, they told me 20.
So more came. Okay.
Yeah, so 10 were
Good.
on Monday, last
good.
Monday, but I heard about 20.
Wonderful.
Well, 10 was your fan club. Those of us who immediately signed up because we saw you were going to talk.
Yeah. I'm almost wondering, Arie, if you even need an introduction. It seems not, right? Seems people are already.
I would like
Well,
one because I'm new to Temple.
I'll tell you, okay, you will hear from me. I mean, I'm not sure, I put 2 hours, but it may take less.
Oh,
So I think an hour, and we can do it in an hour and a half. Depends on the pace of the conversation. So I'll wait a few more minutes. You said 2:35, 1:35, 5 minutes.
I can't do this, Ruby.
So let it be 5 minutes. So I think we are already
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, I
6,
do it while
7,
I'm
8,
on.
9, 10. We are at the 10, but we will see 2 more minutes. And
I heard of waiting for the professor for only 20 minutes.
Arie, forget Professor Arie. We are in our informal coffee shop mood.
Okay, I just wanted to say in the past, I've heard of professor being late, but I've never heard of students being late.
Well, go to the university of today. Students are late, especially in the universe of viral and Zoom classes. It's a different universe. So, yeah.
Are you still associated with the university?
Say it again?
Are you still associated?
No. I'm associated with you and the Zoom. I mean, I have friends in universities, and my wife is about to retire from Hamlin University, and so, yeah.
Mazel tov.
How thrilled we are that you're moving to River Forest.
Yeah, so you'll be associated with us.
Absolutely.
A scholar in residence.
Well,
Perfect.
permanent residence, yeah. So, my dear friends, welcome aboard. I will reintroduce myself, Arie Zmora. You saw my blip of CV that I sent. And I have a BA, MA in History, International Relations from Hebrew University of Jerusalem, MPhil with a thesis from Johns Hopkins in French history, and a PhD in Italian history from, in the really my specialty is the Italian Renaissance. So at one point I can do with you a virtual survey of Florentine Italian Renaissance, which is a fascinating story on its own right. And
so Arie, you found Italy. Stanley Tucci is still looking for Italy.
well, you know, he's he's doing good food. I mean, it's something else to see what he's doing. Yeah, Italy is something else. Well, I have, through my wife, we are affiliated by family to Italy. So this is three classes that are dealing with different aspects of anti-Semitism. And I did it before, and it's very hard for me to review it and deal with it, but it's a must thing to do. And the problem is we need to have to address and attract the attention of younger generation of people, not retiree like yourself. So I wish we could have some younger people come too, because it's important for them to understand our history and the issue of anti-Semitism. So the classes are, today we are going to do to deal with the link between anti-Semitism, the plague of 1348. As we all realize, there is a strong connection between catastrophe and xenophobia. We see it very clearly on the issue of anti-Semitism, but in a more pronounced way, perhaps, with the issue of what the previous President Trump talked about, the China virus and the attack on Asians all over the country. So that's an indicator how prevalent and how dangerous is this situation when you have a plague with lethality and mortality, and it has immediate ramification and implication for social behavior and political behavior. So these are the issues that we will deal with today. Before we were struck by this pandemic, this issue was dormant. Everybody studied the issue of the pandemic, of the Black Death in academic circumstances. It's something remote and detached that doesn't affect our lives at all. It changed dramatically with this pandemic. Next Sunday, I will deal with another issue that is very much at the center of our discussion, the rise of racism and xenophobia and white supremacy. And it's a very beginning, of course, it comes always from Europe. In Europe of the late 19th century, and I'm going to focus on three case studies. One of them will be the incident of the Damascus libel or blood libel, and then the Dreyfus Affair, and maybe another element about the Mortara Affair, kidnapping of a small kid and a forced conversion of this kid in Italy. And all this stuff is happening from 1850 to the early 20th century. And all of them are formative and has implication and legacies for the longest time that up to the present day. The third meeting in 2 weeks will be about the shady connection between Palestinian nationalism and Nazi Germany. and the implication up to the present day of that connection. So I'll deal with Haj Amin al-Husseini, the national leader of the Palestinian movement throughout the 20th century, from 1920 through the 1960s. And you are going to learn an unbelievable stories that came out as a result of exposing of these archives that were found in Yugoslavia and Albania about the connection between Muslims recruited to serve in Waffen-SS and the role of Haj Amin al-Husseini in fostering that relationship. So as I said, it's very depressing, class. So take your Prozac or any antidepressant, come with a bottle of wine or water, because it's really sad. What an introduction to class. Okay, my dear friends, comment, reflections. First of all, what do you think of what you read?
Didn't have a chance to read, so I'm sorry.
No problem. Whoever,
I did read. And you know, one of the key points in the reading was something that I was not aware of in terms of the way the government edicted these I don't know what you want to call them, you know, these atrocities against the Jews. You know, the article was, you know, somewhat about, you know, like dispelling the myth that it was the masses, like the common people and the artisans, the working people that rose up against the Jews, when actually it came down from the top of the, you know, of the hierarchy. And I think that was something that I did not know, and that was very intriguing to me.
No one really knows. This is a groundbreaking article, and that's why I brought it, because if you read if you go to Wikipedia, if you go to other generic discussion, no one talks about it like that. They said, well, it's the common people and they were nutty and they did it, and for elite really tried to block them. So this is a groundbreaking research, and he is a highly regarded scholar of the early modern time of Italy, but he has a great reputation. And this article is really mind-boggling for me. Yeah, we will come and talk to it in more detail. And the questions that I was asking to you about the links with this and the Holocaust and are right on target in that respect. I will start basically with some kind of a broad overview of the position of Jews in medieval Europe and how people lived in the world of medieval Europe, or as someone called it, the world we have lost. It was a totally different universe that we inhabit today. When we are talking about Europe in the medieval time, it's a continent that regressed from this high achievement of the Roman Empire. Roman Empire was urban, highly sophisticated, with highly educated people. And the position of Jews, and I will connect always in this survey, the role and what was the place of Jews in this universe. So here it is, Jews, and I may repeat myself because I said in a different classes, I'm not sure here or some other place, Jews constitute in the beginning of the Common Era, year zero, when Jesus was born, let's say, put it this way, because it's all connected to the religion. Jews had a population of around 7 million people in the world, in the ancient world, mostly in Eretz Israel or Judea, in the Commonwealth of Egypt, in Alexandria, in Babylon, in Syria, in southern Turkey, in Spain. Jews is the most ancient community in southern Spain, and they interacted with Hannibal when he fought against the Romans. I have a peculiar interest in Spain because my family, you notice my name is Zmora, and it's from the village township of Zamora in Castile. And that family lived there and were expelled in 1492. Some of them went to Antwerp. We still have family in Antwerp. And then they moved to Germany and eventually ended up in Poland in the 1600s. So this is a very intriguing story in its own right. But Jews were close to 7 million. The Roman Empire, the Roman world of the beginning of the Common Era had about 50 million people. Now imagine, Jews constitute close to 20% of the Roman Empire. Unbelievable number. And then they experienced the catastrophic war against the Roman. So they had a war in the year 70 where the temple was destroyed, but then they had another war in the year in Bar Kokhba rebellion in 132 to 135, and Jews were decimated and destroyed and basically sold for slaves all over the Mediterranean. The value of a slave was less than one loaf of bread. We know it from reading of Roman chronicles like Dio Cassius and Tacitus. So the Jewish population dramatically dropped to a number of around 1 million. At the top, it reached 1.7 million and of Jews all over the world. And that number remained constant up to the 1700s. So this is a major catastrophe of the Jewish people. And what happened as a result, Jews who were feisty, sovereign nation, very proud and fighting people, transformed themselves and became very peaceful, obedient to the foreign ruler. And there is a Talmudic saying that the Dina de Malchuta Dina, the law of the Lord, of the ruler, is the law. So the leadership was not military, not kings, but they were rabbis who were eager to accommodate whatever the ruler is saying, but to preserve their religious identity. And that's the major transformation that is taking place. The Romans had a problem with the Jews because Jews were aliens. I mean, they were aliens, they were Jews, because the religion was invisible, okay? No statue. When you go, I'm sure you visited Rome or other places or Greece, or you saw it online, you see all the statues of this beautiful, handsome, and beautiful and handsome gods and deities, male and female, unbelievably attractive characters. Where is the God of the Jews? It's invisible. That was something incomprehensible for the pagan universe. There is something else. Pagans were very much accommodating. If the Romans wanted to create gods that was, the emperor became gods, deities. So you have deities, Augustus and Claudius, all over the Mediterranean universe. All the people in that place put gods another god among their deities who was Roman. They didn't do it in the Jewish temple. And for the Romans, that was a defiance of authority. Why they don't do it? So that was a point of contention throughout those years. The Romans, even if they were rational beings and intellectual, they looked down on the Jews with contempt. Tacitus, who was unbelievable writer about challenging the authoritarianism, you can almost read it as a modern analysis. He said those emperors are going to destroy the spirit of the Roman Republic and democracy, which they did. But he went out of his way to criticize Jews. He said, they are crazy people. They don't have a religion, they worship a superstition. And this statement, this coin of word, stayed for a long time in the mindset of Europeans, that it's superstition what the Jews have, not a religion. Now we are coming to rise of Christianity, and Christianity, to the present day, there is a problem between Judaism and Christianity, because according to Christianity, Jews did not recognize the messianic and a divine place of Jesus Christ, who was the Son of God, totally unacceptable in Judaism. It's considered to be a blasphemy. It is considered an idolatry. And they said it in the debates of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century. In fact, also among pagans, that was considered a blasphemy. A human being that is a god was totally unacceptable at the time. Only after a war of religion in 325 AD, this idea of the Trinity became the dogma of the Catholic Church. But for 300 years, it was not. It was not recognized as such. So relationship were between Jews and Christians were tenuous, very contentious. So we have two different approaches in Christianity. One of them said the following, and I'm going to do some short reading to highlight it. I just need to think where I put it. About, bear with me for a second, I have all kinds of text. If you have a question, this is the time to ask. I'm running and I'm not sure if it's a good idea. Something unclear, interrupt me and ask.
Arie, in one of my classes years ago in graduate school in history, the professor also noted that the Romans didn't know what to do with people that had a day off in the week. They couldn't understand Shabbat, and they considered the Jews to be somewhat lazy because they took a whole day off.
And well, I'm not going through everything, but important also, they were horrified by circumcision. Why do you cut into a person masculine organ? Why are you defile God's creation? So there are all kinds of issues that we are not going to discuss for the present time, but you are right. So Jews were considered to be alien, and that was a major issue. So now there are two different approaches to Judaism in Christianity, and Europe became Christian. One of them is, I'm going to read you, highlight. So this is the year 387. And from a bishop in Antioch, and Antioch is a city in northern, southern Turkey of today, modern, on the border between Turkey and Syria. He said the following, his name Christolosom. And he is Greek in origin, and Greeks are hateful of Jews at the time. And unfortunately, this tradition continues for many, many centuries. So hear what he said. The synagogue is not only a gathering place for thieves and hucksters, but also of demons. Not only the synagogue, but the souls of the Jews are also the dwelling place of demons. How can you gather together in a place with men possessed by demons, whose spirits are so impure and who are nurtured on slaughters and murders? How can you do this and not shudder? Instead of exchanging greetings with them and addressing one word to them, ought one not rather avoid them as a pestilence and disease spreads throughout the world? Haven't they been the curse of all kind of evil? I emphasize it for a purpose. Horrible stuff. Distance yourself from the Jews. They are associated with demons and with plague. And this is a consistent element that comes in a discussion of those unbelievable critics of Jews. This is the 4th century AD. On the other hand, so here you have one approach that said Jews really practically need to be extinguished, eliminated, pushed out, or converted by force. Thankfully, this were challenged by Augustine, and Augustine was a friar, very important scholar from the city of Hippo, which is in Tunisia today. And he came with another different approach, basically tolerate the Jews. The Jews are witness. I'm not going to read everything that he said, it will take time, but the Jews are witness to the triumphant church in its battle with a defeated synagogue. And we need to keep them alive for everybody to see who they are, defeated. At the end of times, when the second coming of Christ, they will convert to Christianity. And they will understand that the word, that they kept the old book, the word of God, but they understand it superficially. They don't understand that Jesus is an embodiment of the divine command and the implication of religion as Judaism as it is. Judaism is Christianity. The Jews didn't understand the full meaning of the word of God. For example, and the reference is to Book of Psalms, on Psalm 58, we said the following: do not kill them, lest they forget thy law. Don't kill those who don't obey you because they forgot your law. And that's what the idea of Augustine said. He said, the Jews are like Cain, you know, Cain who killed Abel. They are witness. Cain was not killed. He was kept alive as a disgrace symbol for a disgraced murder. The Jews are parallel to that because they disgraced religion and are by association related to the death of Christ. So you keep them alive as witness for the righteousness of Christianity to the end of time. So this theological explanation kept the Jews alive. Comments, questions?
Yeah, Augustine was Roman.
Augustine, well, we are talking the post-Roman world in the year 450. He was from Hippo, which is in the northern part of Tunisia. Roman Empire is at its almost a total destruction. 476, there is no Roman Empire. We have rise of small city-state all over Europe, and we have invasion of barbaric tribes who are destroying everything, all the urban centers of Western civilization. So you heard about Attila the Hun and all these characters affiliated with him. They destroyed everything that they found. Vandals, Ostrogoth, Visigoth, all kind of people who came from German lands, but also Mongols who came from Asia. They destroy the Western civilization. So now we are moving to early medieval time. And early medieval time,
Arie, I'm sorry, before we move a few centuries, did you just say, I just want to make sure that I understood, we had the two schools of thought, and the one that won out in effect?
for the time being, Augustine.
Right, so if Augustine's school of thought had not won out, then we might not be here at all?
No, I don't know. Nothing is logical to the very end. For example,
Well, I understand.
I want to, Alan, listen. For example, Augustine did not win in Spain. So in Spain, we have the Visigoth, and when they are coming to power in Spain, they implicated forced conversion of Jews. We are talking about a 5th, 6th, and 7th century, but guess what? The Visigoths were defeated, and a different system came to power, which was more tolerant. And the other element that came into play was the fact that you have invasion of Islam, and Islam created a totally different dynamics in the West. And how and why will be dealt with next Sunday.
Okay.
But in the way in Europe, for the time being, Augustine is taking over, and the idea of Augustine of tolerance, it's not respect at all. I mean, you keep the Jews as witness because they are humiliated, defeated, and basically are put on the pedestal for everybody to see and spit on them, but not kill them. And that situation goes on in Europe up to the 13th century. Okay? I need to catch up my breath. It's hard to talk a lot. So now we are moving to medieval time. Early medieval time, we have German tribes, and we have what is known as the Carolingian dynasty. They unified Europe and forced Christianity all over Europe. And at the end we have Karl the Great, and his descendants were very tolerant of Jews. So Jews were allowed to work wherever they want, observe their religion, keep even slaves who are Christians, and also employ Christians in their workshop, which is very important. So they were able to do whatever pleases them with no intervention of the state. So this was a nice time for the Jews, nice, relatively speaking. Europe is developed in a different way than it used to be under the Roman Empire. No more towns. We have the emergence of an autarkic, self-sufficient society that is agrarian in nature. Cities disappeared from the face of the earth. Okay? And Jews were international traders. They brought what was missing in Europe in terms of spices, in terms of mostly of spices from the East. There is a known familial tribe of Radhanite that were located, centered in Iraq, in Baghdad, and they had affiliation by family in Ceylon, India, and Indonesia. This is unheard of story. International trade in the Middle Ages, and they had also branches of the family in Spain, Rome, and Germany. They were very much welcomed by the Carolingian because they brought merchandise that was missing, especially to spice blend foods. And they were also in the business of bringing money as much as they could use it on a very limited basis. Because this is an autarkic society. Now, why Jews are in the business of money lending? Why they are in international commerce? Why they cannot, for example, have a plot of land and become peasants like everybody else? That's a question that gives me time to sip some water. But that's a question for you. What do you think about that?
Was it in some locations were prohibited from?
Say it again. I didn't hear.
Was it in some locations they were prohibited from owning property?
Absolutely, prohibited to own land. Yep, absolutely. Jews were not allowed to own land. Ownership of land indicate independence, sovereignty, and political power. Jews are heretic, infidels, are deprived of most of the occupation of ordinary people. They cannot hold any plot of land. They cannot be part of any political and social administration because in a Christian universe, civilization, or in Christendom, you need to take an oath to the Lord Jesus Christ. They cannot even retain a title in a university or be a teacher in a university because of the need to retain a Christian oath. Don't be that surprised. You know, numerus clausus was very prevalent to the present day, all the way in terms of housing. You know it. You go to and search how Har Zion was founded. It was a problem just to get the lease to build a synagogue because of being Jewish. Teaching in a university or being in a capacity of a surgeon or a doctor in a hospital in the United States up to the 1950s, Jews were not accepted. Yes, Maurice, did I make a mistake?
No. I just, I think, I don't know if I remember correctly, but weren't Christians not allowed to lend money?
Well, I'm coming to that in a different way. Yeah, I will answer it. And I will answer it. And the reading is talking about it. So Jews were basically pushed out of every occupation and they were pushed into either dealing in marginal occupation like used clothes or lending money or being tax agent of the political authority. So they were some kind of an IRS on behalf of the ruler because it was a hateful job. This is the situation that Jews were pushed to deal with. Now, it is very important because you always read about the Jews of greed and wishful idea to make money, easy money without work. And that's the canard of anti-Semitism. But it's important to know there is the cause and effect. They were pushed out of occupation on basically working as artisans in workshops or owning land or working as being peasants or farmers. if you go to the Talmud, okay, it is a very difficult reading, but all the dealing, Talmud is a law book, how to deal with issue. Most of them are dealing with issue of farmers, ownership of land, transgression on land, fruits and vegetable, grain, all kind of aspects associated with economic life in Israel or in Babylonia, where Jews were mostly occupied in tilling the land or farming. Place where Jews were very much allowed to deal with other occupation was in Spain. So in Spain, up to the 7th century, we have a lot of Jews who were farmers because they were not deprived of ownership of land. So I mention it for the reason to understand that money lending was not something that happened because of greed, but because of political and social pressure of Christian society. Comments, questions? I will come and talk about Shylock too, don't worry.
Were Jews always allowed to be merchants and business people?
Now, here it is. Good question. Merchants, it depends. There are all kinds of trade that Jews were not allowed to deal with. Because when you're going to township, and township are starting to rebuild themselves in the 12th, 13th, 14th centuries, starting in Italy, everything was corporate. People were organized in corporation. So guild was some kind of between a trade union with its own rule and a workshop. So they decided on the quality, the education, basically apprenticeship. Who is going to be in the guild? For example, if you are a jeweler, if you are a merchant of wool, if you are a pharmacist, if you are a doctor, if you are a lawyer, you have bylaws how you're getting into this position. Usually it's family relations. At the same time, they decide the workmanship, quality and production, a quota about how much you are going to produce, where are you going to sell it. It was very much monitored by guild, by agreement between guild members and the municipality. The leadership is also composed of guild members, of president of guilds. All of them are coming together, all of them are Christians. It all over Europe. Jews were deprived. Where did the Jews live? In terms of, they lived either by the wall, inside the wall, or outside the wall. Horrible work condition. So how Jews got to the cities? They were given privilege. So they have a contractual agreement with the city leadership, or if it is a village, with the village leadership, or if it's an open space with other people, with the leadership, always with the leadership. It's a baron, a castellan, a knight, patrician leadership of the city. They got contractual agreement, and the contractual agreement change over time. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. And it could be arbitrarily canceled. And the major change in terms of quality of life for Jews is taking place with the rise of the Crusader era. From the 11th century, from 1100 on, there is a drastic deterioration of condition of life for Jews. You see the rise of mendicant orders. Mendicants are Franciscan and Dominicans. And they talked about the purity of religion. Purity of religion basically said We need to get rid of the privileged position given to Jews. We need to give them a choice, not Augustine, keep them as witnesses, convert them by force or push them out. If it doesn't work, kill them. But not really, no one talks about killing them. It's about pushing them out of our community. They are dangerous. Now, in your opinion, what was the number of Jews? I'll tell you one thing. In Europe, you have in 1300, 78 million people. Give me a wild guess. How many Jews were in Europe?
Are we including Spain as part of Europe?
Yes.
200,000.
Well, we are not far away from reality. We are, the demographer assumes somewhere between 4 to 5, at maximum 500,000 Jews. This is 0.6%. It's nothing. But when you're looking at the letters, edicts, bulls of popes and leader of the church, over 50% are dealing with Jews. And that's always in a very defamatory and horrific story, like the Jews are menacing, are compromising the welfare of a Christian community. So we have what we are going to see. There is an important legislation. Jews they need to be dressed differently with either funny hats or a symbol over their clothes that identify them. Because there is an issue, they may undermine the purity of the Christian people. Remember, they are impure. There is some horrible characteristic flaws. And guess what? They may seduce a virgin Christian girl and impregnate her. One of the greatest Italian writers of the Middle Ages write a poem about it, and the poem is published time and again today in Italian books. That the Christians are expected to be very careful to drink from wells because the semen of Jews is in the well, and when a woman is going to drink from it, it will impregnate her, and guess what? She is going to produce a snake. Horrific stories. Horror stories. So this mendicant, which are moving to the cities, are having an impact on masses. The mass of the people are ignoramus, are not familiar with church teaching because they are preached in churches in Latin. So those preachers are coming and speaking the language of the people, domestic language, the Vulgata. And they give vivid description of the Jews, how dangerous they are. Not only how exploitative they are because they are lending money. Now here we are coming to lending money. You are familiar with the story of Shylock, right? Now, you won't believe it when I'm going to tell you that the story of Shylock, which is from 1600, he copied it from a very popular book in Florence. He took everything from that book and published it in English and put his name on it, except for the name of Shylock. In the Italian, the reference, instead of Shylock, a Jewish man. But the other element of the story are almost identical. So the story of Shylock is very popular in Europe, in Italy. The Jews are using usury to exploit the people. Oh. So this is now about usually we are going to refer to the article itself that talks about it. I mean, Cohen in the article makes some reference to it, but Jews gave loans in interest for basically farmers who tilled the land and needed some money to buy seeds or to buy items of labor. And they return the loan after they sell the produce the following, after a good harvest the following year. So they gave an important service for the benefit of farmers. And he's writing about it in the book. When the Italians, there were restriction on lending money, the farmers are protesting against the government. We need those money. We need these loans. They are very important for us. There were attempts of the church to create its own loan organization, but it faltered because they didn't give any interest. They didn't have money to give as loans that were needed to the people, to farmers, artisans, workshops. So that tells you something about complexities of reality. Jews gave an important social, economic service to the people. In fact, the research indicates the interest the Jews charge was much lower than what the Christian moneylender offered.
I saw that in the article, yeah.
And this is important to note, because when we are hearing today all kind of stories, and this is the indication when you hear an anti-Semite said, well, the Jews love money and they exploited. Not true. The element of usury is very interesting. It's coming from biblical, from the book of Leviticus. I don't have if I will teach another class, I will share with you this one. The book of Leviticus said the following: you can use and give excessive loan in excessive interest for high risk people. High risk mean a foreigner. In Hebrew, lazar, and there is a fine definition in Hebrew. Zar means someone who is outside the territory boundaries of the land of Israel. For the person who lives close to you, ger means a foreigner who is in your neighborhood. You give him lower interest. Why? Because the foreigner who is from outside the boundaries of the land of Israel is a high risk. And you take risk in loaning to someone unknown to you. And that's an important definition, a distinction. So the biblical bylaw says you give loan, the same loan to Jew and to non-Jew, a Gentile who lives close to you and you're familiar with him. But if someone foreigner from outside the boundaries of the land of Israel is coming to you, he is high risk. You can charge him more. This is important to remember, because when you will find people who don't like, who like to criticize, demonize the Jews, they always goes to this reference in the book of Leviticus. Remember this one, the definition between ger and zar. Ger is a Gentile, live in your close quarter. Zar is a foreigner from outside the boundaries of the land of Israel. And I did some research on that, and I have references that indicate this definition of zar, that is outside the boundaries of the geographical land of Israel. Comments, questions?
Arie, was it ever common for Jews to loan money to nobles for basically who were carrying out military campaigns?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They did everything. What I'm not going, this is in a different context. In 1683, okay, it's not what we are doing now. 1683, the Ottomans, the Turks, the Muslims were about to conquer the city of Vienna, okay? And the emperor fled the city. He left the defense of the city in the hands of his finance minister who was Jewish. This finance minister recruited soldiers from Poland, paid them money to come and defend Vienna. And they did, and they were successful. And it was all Jewish money. There is a book about this, and if we will have other classes, I'll teach it. This is an unbelievable story. So counteract all this horrible story that we hear, it's important to give you some ammunition to see that Jews were very helpful in the defense of Christendom and also the defense of Western civilization. Okay, now that we have read now we talk about the plague itself, okay? We have an hour. By the way, any of you, I asked in one of the reference to read, what is it? On Wikipedia on the Black Death. If you read, let me know. If not, I'll talk.
Yeah.
What do you know about the Black Death?
Well, it seems like it was spread by rats who had fleas, and the fleas then would bite people, and that's how the plagues,
that spread all over. The interesting story is that those rats came from Asia. How the rats are coming from Asia? They join, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut in the shipping, the ships, right? Were the trade that occurred from the ships had a route and spread, that's how it spread into a intercontinental plague, because they traveled from ship to port to people, and then people spread it.
That's correct. Basically, it has to do with the success of the commercial activity of the Italians. You are familiar with Marco Polo. The idea is to find this unbelievable trade route to Asia, silk, spices, and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought it in the via the Silk Road on caravans, and the caravans went through Asia, and those rodents were living there. And we are talking marmot. And the marmot were carrying, it's like a prairie dog. Prairie dog that you're familiar with. So the prairie dog had the fleas that were carrying the disease. And the prairie dog, and there was the connection between the prairie dog and the rats. And those rats jump onto the whatever merchandise the Italians had, and in their route, they carried all this, the rats entered into this sacks of whatever they had to the ships, and the first blow up of infection took place in Crimea. And from Crimea, a Genoese ship went all the way to Messina in Sicily. And the story, there is a description of a narrator in Messina. That ship entered the port, half of the crew was dead. People were shocked, they didn't understand it. And all of a sudden they see those supersized rats jumping on to the outside of the ship to the dock. Within 2 days, Messina was infected. Within 1 week, half of the city was dead. Messina in Sicily, and it spread further. Other places were affected are seashore, seaports, like we are talking summer of 48. It comes to Marseille and then Pisa that we are familiar with. And from Pisa, it went all the way to Florence. We are familiar very much with the Florentine story, especially the demographic, because the Florentine were very much industrious people that kept the census list of their people for purposes of taxation. That's why they were so meticulous in recording everything. So in the year 1300, Florence had 110,000 people. After the Black Death in 1350, they had 40,000.
Wow.
That gives you an indication of on the catastrophic element. Tuscany in the 1300 had about 2 million people. The number was below 500,000 in 1400. And the numbers did not, and Tuscany got 2 million only in 1850. It tells you something of the magnitude of the destruction. Apocalyptic level, it's like a nuclear attack by the plague. In fact, in the 1960s, the Pentagon put a lot of money into historical research of the plague in Italy. Why? They wanted to see, they were thinking about nuclear catastrophe, and they wanted to see how people react when there isn't a nuclear reaction, when there is a catastrophe on the magnitude of the Black Death. How the reaction of the people, what will happen? So I'm going to read you something about it. Not about the Pentagon research, but about contemporary writing. And this is Giovanni Boccaccio. It's a familiar book, Decameron. Decameron is a story, a lot of lust and sexuality is going on there, of 10 men and 10 young women who are fleeing Florence because of the plague. And they are telling all kinds of fantastic stories that are involving a lot of love and sexuality and all kinds of other taboo issues. But at the very beginning, Giovanni Boccaccio, who experienced the plague, he gave us an authentic description of the plague. And I'm going to read you part, highlight of some of it. They talk about the symptom of the plague at the beginning. So the beginning is basically that you have bleeding from the nose, bleeding from the, and bleeding, and then what are the symptoms? The signs in men and women alike were by swelling, either in the groin or under the armpit, some of which grew to the size of an ordinary apple and other to the size of an egg. And from the 2 parts of the body already mentioned, a very little time, they said deadly gavoccioli. Gavoccioli is a small limp, growth. A small growth is began to spread indiscriminately over every part of the body. It changed to black or livid spots appearing on the arms and the thigh and on every part of the body. Within 2 days, the person died. Neither a doctor advice nor the strength of medicine could do anything to cure this illness. And what is the impact on the people? Not only did talking to or being around the sick bring infection and a common death, but also touching the clothes of the sick or anything touched or used by them seem to communicate this very disease to the persons involved. So infection is on extremely high level. It was often transmitted from the garments of a sick or a dead man to animals that not only became contaminated by the disease, but also died within a brief period of time. My own eyes, I said earlier, were witness to such a thing one day when the rags of a poor man who died of this were thrown into the public street. 2 pigs came upon them, and as they were wont to do, first with their snouts and then with their teeth, they took the rags and shook them around, and within a short time after a number of convulsions, both pigs were dead. Further, here is what happened. People were basically so disoriented, so they decided to leave their homes and go to tavern and engage in free sex. This they were able to do easily, for everything felt he was doomed to die, and as a result abandoned his property, so most of the houses had become common property. And any stranger who came upon them used them as if he were their rightful owner. This bestial behavior, they always managed to avoid the sick as best as they could. And in this great affliction and misery of our city, the revered authority of the laws, both divine and human, had fallen and almost completely disappeared. For like other men, the ministers and executors of the laws were either dead or sick, or so short of health that it was impossible for them to fulfill their duties. As a result, everybody was free to do as he pleased. The most horrific story is the reference to family relations. Fathers and mothers were abandoned and left to languish away without any care. The fact was that one citizen avoided another, that almost no one cared for his neighbor, and the relatives rarely or hardly ever visited each other. They stayed far apart. This disaster has such fear into the hearts of men and women that brother abandoned brother, uncle abandoned nephew, sister left brothers, and very often wife abandoned husband, and even worse, almost unbelievably, fathers and mothers neglected to tend and care for their children as if they were not their own. This is an authentic description of an eyewitness, Giovanni Boccaccio, and it gives you an indication of the alarming and pathological destruction of social behavior and human behavior and total collapse of society. Now, we are coming to our discussion of the article. This is the context for the Black Plague. What does the article tell us? What happened to Jews? What are they the blame of doing?
One accusation is poisoning of wells.
Mm-hmm. Poisoning of wells. And there is an unbelievable description, and I don't want to read it. It will take a lot of time. But in Shilon, which is in near Lake Geneva, it's a township, they came with the idea that the Jews, there is a particular Rabbi Jacob, who is behind the concoction of special liquid and poison, and he gave him to all kinds of other people who were subordinate of his, and they were looking for places to drop the poison, this mix, and basically kill people. We are talking a combination of spider and toads. You mix them together, you put some kind of a mysterious liquid, put it in wells, and people will die.
So was this, you're saying a rabbi was doing this?
No, that was the allegation.
Oh,
No one found him. Why did they need to do it? What is the let me ask indifferently. And someone early, I think, who spoke about it earlier, I think, Jane, I'm not sure who was at the very beginning mentioned this story. Maybe Jennifer, you did it. About why, what is the common belief about who killed Jews and why? First of all, the common belief, I'll say
that it came out of the common, the working people and the peasants.
The peasant and working people, because they wanted to destroy debt records and kill the Jews who exploited them economically over time.
Right.
And Cohen said, no, it didn't happen that way. Well, how did it happen?
Well, so it seemed that it was actually the ruling, the for lack of a better word, the clergies, the government edicted these things. And honestly, to me, it seemed like it was just a way to suppress the influence of the Jews and essentially like a power struggle. And so they scapegoated the Jews with this and punished them.
It's a totally different story. It's
Totally.
not a people. It's very, very acceptable, basically, to say that if you're poor and if you're a peasant, of course you want to kill the Jews. But he said, no, it's not like that.
Right.
It's the leadership. It's the leadership. And he's going and looking into narratives, chronicle of the medieval time of that era. And he found out that basically it's the priests who were leaders, bishops, a patrician leadership of township, kings and dukes, who said, Jews are responsible for the plague. They poisoned the plague. Yes.
I think what was going on was the rich people used the Jews to build up their own power. And at the point where they owed too much to us, they killed us off. They kept the money and killed the Jews.
But it's not true either. I mean, I'm talking the article. That's why you need to read it very carefully. And after the class, you read it again. It's unbelievable story. It's the elite, social elite. This is a major breakthrough from other. And the methodology that Cohen is using, he's reading chronicles. What people at the time wrote about it, and it's always the leadership who came with this crazy idea of poisoning well. The Jews are doing it. And what do? They are using legal process, due process. They torture people to give a testimony about a fictitious character who gave them poison to put it in wells and poison. So you do fake due process.
isn't this where they actually tortured people to confess?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you have references about how many died, and you burn them down, and you burn them. You put them in closed places or the synagogue, and you burn them down. And numbers are unbelievable. In Mainz, we don't have always records of this stuff, but I looked in some other books, and I found in Mainz, in Germany, 19,000 Jews were tortured to death in 24 hours. Now I am going to give you, I asked you about Holocaust. So here I'm going to give you a story that is personal to me. When the Nazis came in July of 1941 to the township of Tarnopol, which is in the Ukraine, that's the township of my mother. My mother was at the time 25. They put together 5,000 Jews in the old synagogue, and in 5 hours they killed 5,000 people. They burned the shul down. My uncle was a soldier in the Red Army. That was a Polish, Ukrainian, and Jewish people who lived in town. They were defending against the Nazis in July of 41. They immediately, the Ukrainian pointed out the Jews in their unit. The Nazis took the Jews, put them in an enclave, and they put a barbed wire around them, and they didn't kill them by bullets, they torched them, burned them down to death. So for me, it's very, the line of demarcation is very clear. Note the fact that the largest number of killing of Jews took place in German land by the political elite with the fictitious due process in order to make it legal, to look legal. It's not legal, but it looked legal. Now, here is, you mentioned to me the fact that, well, it's the rich people wanted to deprive the Jews of their richness. But what he found out, this author, is the fact that they didn't go about merchants or debt rolls, but rather they didn't burn them. They burned Torah scrolls, burned synagogues, and they went after the rabbis. They killed the rabbis first. Rabbi students and doctors, the elite of the Jewish communities on German communities. And that is the frightening, and that's the horrific story. They want to decimate the Jewish leadership.
And which year are you speaking about now?
We are talking about German lands from 1348 to 1350 in township like Shillon, Erfurt, Strasbourg. I put all of that down. It's in this article that is mentioning, well, there are 1,026 communities that he referred to where Jews were killed in large or small numbers. Over 1,000 communities.
I saw an excavation in Cologne within the last 20 years, 25 years ago, when I traveled in Germany for work. And in Cologne, there was a well showing you, and it was in German, but it was interesting. It was Jüdische Mikveh from 1348, I believe. I could be 48 or some such.
It's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
And it was right behind the train station, and we're talking about maybe 60, 70 feet down. I guess the question is, was Cologne in this world as well? Because we're now talking, Cologne is on the western side of Germany, not in the Strasbourg world.
Right. No, Cologne also experienced that. In Cologne, there was a debate. There was, in some places, there was a debate. The leadership of the guild said, nonsense. There is the Jews didn't kill anyone. They didn't poison it. They died like us. But they were overturned by other people in the leadership, in the patrician leadership, that said, no, we are going to kill them. And the reason is religious. they truly believe that Jews are the monsters that are bringing this the plague on them. If you kill them, the leadership, the plague will go away. Horrific story. So it's not the common people, it's not the artisans. In fact, he's going and tells you something about attacks on Jews, on debt collectors in later decades, in 1391 and early 14th century. He said that at that time, really people attacked the Jews because they were affiliated to the tax collector and to the crown, that they wanted to tax the poor farmers more and more. But when they attacked the Jews, they didn't kill them. They just burned death records. The killing was initiated in 1348 by the political and religious leadership of the German township and communities. And this is really the frightening legacy. And you can go with it all the way to the, I will go all the way to the Holocaust. And he also is doing it.
I have a question. You know, if the numbers of the Jews were relatively small in all these communities compared to everyone else, why were they perceived to be such a threat?
Mm-hmm. Well, they killed Jesus. Well, that's the nature of xenophobia and prejudice. You demonize this marginal small group with no effective political, religious, economic power. It's user-friendly. And you believe in this. I mean, the leadership believe that they are responsible for the plague. You need to kill them.
Well, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I'm wondering if they really believed that, or, I mean, basically just use the plague as a mechanism to do this, to keep their power.
But they are in power regardless.
They're in power regardless. So
yeah, but perhaps, I mean, you have a point. I mean, if it's anarchy, and we are not sure where we are going to the entire society, social structure is going to be destroyed. We need to find a scapegoat.
Jennifer, I was just listening to a broadcast on NPR. I believe it was yesterday, or could have been Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the fellow who was speaking, but basically what they were saying was that when you have a breakdown in society, like what happened with the plague and what we're living through now,
sure,
people want to find a reason for it,
right?
And
someone to blame.
Exactly. So it's just you can make it up, for what you can make up whatever reason you want.
It's like what's happened with the Asians during this pandemic today.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And remember, you recall the AIDS epidemic?
Mm-hmm.
We had the same situation with the AIDS epidemic. Well, it's the gay, it's what it was, Falwell, moral majority, said it's a divine punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens here. This plague tells us how fragile we are in terms of social and reasoning. If you have a group of people who are politically very influential, who can speak about pedophile, who are the QAnon characters, this is like the nonsense that we see, the horrific stories of the plague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they are politically influential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arie, I look at it a little differently in terms of, I think the anti-Semitism as well as anti-other was hiding under the rocks for who knows how long. But with Trump running for election, it was like they saw it as permission to come out from under the rocks. I think it's been there before we had the plague, our current plague.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
mean
out
in
in the open.
America? Yeah, in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. In European, it's much more pronounced, anti-Semitism.
Oh, yes. But I mean, I think the anti-Semitism was very blatant once he started running. It was like they had permission to come out and be and say, you know, come out from the snakes came out from under the rocks.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it tells something about human behavior. The times of catastrophic crisis, we are the a canary in their mine. Or they attack the Jews or other minority group. But in Europe, there is only one group that is non-Christian. I mean, we are talking a very homogeneous universe. Jews are the only alien group in that universe, the only one. Muslims are not there yet, but we are talking about
there
the
was
Jews.
always the gypsy as well, and the gypsy was a somewhat different
That's a different story, because in a universe that religion is predominant element, and about thinking about heaven and hell is very existential for people, and Jews are demons, and they represent horrific forces way beyond their numerical marginal number. I mean, if Jews, and you saw that it's 0.6%, it's nothing. And they form such a powerful force in the liturgy and the chronology and the bulls of the Pope. And the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth.
I have a question pertaining to these numbers. The Jews have a particularly different way of relating to their God, in the sense that you need a quorum to form a
minyan.
And the minyan is only that of 10, but typically it would be a larger quorum. And in this universe, I mean, I have a friend who researches the origin of where this minyan and such things may have come from. And
so Judy, I want to answer something to explain how the Jewish community are being formed in medieval Europe. So when you don't have a catastrophe like this, usually you need the Jew, especially if it's a merchant on a money lenderer, and you bring him, you pay him to come, and he negotiates his terms, and his terms had something to do with money and mostly with security. And one of the elements that he is asking for is to bring Klei Kodesh, which means a cantor, a rabbi, a yeshiva. So he needs to have, aside from his immediate family, people who will serve the needs of a community, a butcher. All of this need to become part of a community.
Exactly.
And that's how you negotiate creation of a community. But imagine how precarious is the situation if every 5 or 10 years, privileges are withdrawn and he's pushed out. In 1291, the Jews of England, who were living quite okay, were pushed out of England. In France, twice in the 14th century, the Jews are deprived of their privileges and chased out of France altogether. This is unreal. This is a persecution society.
Arie, it seems to me there's two elements here. I'm going to go back to my previous comment, and that is because we are a people of the book, meaning we learn to read, we learn to think very early in the time of our existence, as opposed to most of the world, which who weren't readers, who weren't thinkers. Jews, even a poor Jew, could figure out a way to start building up, and then he could be the lender. And of course, the people he lends to don't want to pay him back. So it's very convenient to get rid of all the Jews, to get rid of all the debts. It's like their own version of what happens at the 10th year, where you push all the debts away. And the other piece is that the way we look at life and where life comes from and where life goes is different from everyone else. So it's very easy to marginalize us because we think differently.
Well, you think because of circumstances. Jews cannot, because life is so unpredictable and you can be traced out within moments' notice, you need to have your liquidated wealth. You cannot have anything that is not liquid. And you need to collect either coins or jewelry to survive. And that's the tragedy of medieval Jewry. They live in a persecutor society. And arbitrary laws are applied to them that are not applied to others. Other corporate people are safe because there are bylaws that protect guild association, that protect farmers. But the Jews are deprived of these protections. And in a universe that is very much religious and everything is based on religion, Jews are the ultimate pariah, the infidels, that at moment's notice you can kill them. And that's a tragedy.
I have a question about kind of regarding how Jews were not permitted to be landowners because they were not Christians, basically. Is that why historically they were always pushed into ghettos? Because did they say, okay, they can only live here on the periphery, or how did that work?
Yeah, basically, yes, you need to preserve them as miserable. But you know, don't have, it's a very complex, medieval society is complex. No one is free. You don't have, people are not individuals. We live in an individualistic society. Medieval society is not individualistic, it's corporate. People live in a communities of corporations. So they are affiliated to something, and they are responsible and loyal to someone who give them orders. But they have quite protected life. And Jews are in this universe, but they are not incorporated into the religious, the comfort zone of a Christian society. They are on the margin of that society. They can be let in or out. And if there is a resentment of the political power, you push the Jews out and you punish the Jews. And he can let go and pushed and killed, and there is no accountability. There is some accountability. The accountability is at the hand of the political ruler. If it's a prince and in Spain, the Jews were protected for quite a while for all kinds of bizarre reasons, because the Christian kingdoms in Spain were fighting against Muslims. So they needed a go-between the Jews. So whenever the Muslims were strong, Jews got a very good deal from the Christian princes. And Jews were the largest population in Europe because they lived in Spain. There were about 300,000 Jews in Spain by 1492. The rest were all over. They approximately, they assume there are about 100,000 Jews in Germany. As a result of this persecution of Jews in German lands, there was supersized migration to Poland.
Yeah, that
The
was in the
15th
article.
Yeah, in the
Mhm.
15th, 16th century.
So
So it-
really, the Jews had it. They had a good deal in Spain prior to the Inquisition.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, relatively good.
It was, yeah, we try to idolize the golden age of Spain. There was never a golden age. Jews were never fully integrated as citizens.
But there was a period where at least they were allowed to live in harmony with the Moors, the Jews, the Christians.
They
kind of
did.
got along.
That's true. It depends. It changes all the time.
Right.
But because there were fight between those two, the Jews were benefited from
They
it.
benefited from that, right?
Yeah.
Arie, what you're saying essentially is the Gentiles, and to some degree the Moors as well, saw us as tools. As long as we were useful at carrying out a task, like a saw saws through a log, we were fine. But when either we had too much money and too much power, or they didn't need us, they just throw us away, whether
Yeah.
it's into a fire or into a garbage dump or whatever.
Yeah.
Sad story.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told you, this class is depressing.
Well, I mean, we didn't have any recourse. I mean,
But
there wasn't a higher level of government or anyone to appeal to. We got what we got from
But the
the
resilience-
rulers. Yeah.
but there is element of resilience, of surviving. Surviving is strength on its own right. You survive.
Right.
And this is-
That's why I don't find this class that depressing, because of the resilience of the Jewish people, as evidenced by where we are now after all these years of this sort of treatment.
So
Good point, Jane.
I didn't follow Jane. I'm happy to see you in person. Can you repeat what you said?
I was just saying that I don't find this class at all depressing. I like to learn.
Oh,
these-
really? Good for us.
I find the resilience of the Jewish people inspiring.
Yeah.
Amen.
Very, yeah.
To bring something from totally outside, but connected to a name you mentioned, the Dreyfus Affair. One of the reasons why
we will do it next week.
But I'll tell you though, this the idea. I read in a book of World War I, one of the reasons why the French army was so weak was because the Dreyfus Affair just tore the army apart, as opposed to the German army, which had large numbers of Jewish soldiers who were fully accepted.
Hey, but you know, Dreyfus fought in World War I. He was artillery officer. Yeah, it's an interesting story. Okay, my dear friends, I think we discussed and that we did a lot of work, and I told you an hour and a half, I think it's plenty for the discussion. So I wish you all the best. I'm going to send material via Sheila by Tuesday or Wednesday. It will not be very long, but very concise and very depressing.
Want to tell what this, you're one of the best instructors that I've ever come across. So I just want to tell you.
You are a best student.
Thank you very much.
I'm telling you, thank you. But you know, I told you what we have is a virtual conversation that it depends on the material that we are reading and we discuss it. And you have different angle to attack the material. And I try to bring material that is important. And I think that it will benefit you in other conversation when you meet people who are skeptical about Jews, who talk about greedy Jews and moneylenders and exploiters. You have some element to respond based on facts.